This is the latest installment in our series of investigations into the Independent Development Trust, its former CEO Tebogo Malaka, and the Collen Mashawana Foundation, the non-profit embroiled in an ongoing IDT scandal. I'll unpack what appears to be a massive case of alleged signatures fraud related to the Collen Mashawana Foundation and its expanded public works program contract from the IDT. Imagine you are poor, unemployed, and desperate for work. One day, an opportunity comes along to earn a small salary. You sign a short-term employment contract with a charitable foundation, one that was given 60 million rand in funding from a government body to run employment schemes across 5 provinces. Because you live in a rural village, you have to walk 10-15 kilometers each day to clock in for work and get back home again. Your job, meanwhile, involves cleaning public facilities like schools and clinics. It is hard, physical work, but you do it for your family's sake. When your first salary lands in your bank account, however, you're in for a shock. You were supposed to earn roughly 1,700 rand per month, but the charitable foundation that employed you has paid you less than a third of that amount. Yet you keep on working, because even a fraction of your rightful salary is better than nothing. Then, 4 months into your employment contract, the money simply stops coming in. This while the charitable foundation allegedly forged your signature on documents that unlocked millions of rands in public funds. My name is Pieter-Louis Myburgh. I'm an investigative journalist for Scorpio at Daily Maverick. First, a brief recap. I've been looking into the IDT since October 2024, when I first exposed the 800 million rand oxygen plant scandal. That deal has since been cancelled, but I received word that the IDT was awash with more malfeasance and alleged corruption. The IDT's then CEO, Tebogo Malaka, was said to be involved in all manner of shady dealings, some of them involving IDT contractors. I was urged to look at a property that was being built for Malaka inside an upmarket residential estate. My investigation soon linked the property development to businessman Collen Mashawana, whose charitable foundation had already begun rolling out the 60 million rand employment scheme on behalf of the IDT. Malaka must have heard about my digging, because her associate, then IDT spokesperson Pasha Makholane, contacted me out of the blue and invited me to a private meeting. It was at this meeting when Makholane first suggested that his boss, Malaka, also wanted to see me, and that they would pay me off if I abandoned my investigations. Daily Maverick immediately decided that we would covertly record the second meeting, which took place in August last year. Our ensuing video sting investigation went absolutely viral. More importantly, it sparked ongoing investigations by the Hawks and the IDT's Board of Trustees. Soon after the video sting, Daily Maverick published an investigation that exposed Tebogo Malaka's financial dealings with Collen Mashawana, dealings that were centered around Malaka's multi-million rand property inside a Gauteng security estate. All indications are that this was the story Malaka hoped to bury by trying to buy me off. Malaka clearly had a very close relationship with Mashawana. We now know that Mashawana's entities were channeling money into the former IDT CEO's property. What's more, in our COVID video recording, Malaka suggested that she could arrange for me to meet Mashawana. We also reported that the foundation's workers in the Free State were not getting their full salaries. In some months, they got nothing, despite putting in long hours of physical labor. Now, the latest delivery in our IDT series focuses on the foundation's workers in Limpopo, the province in which the Collen Mashawana Foundation received its most lucrative contract to run a jobs program for 700 people. In May this year, myself and photographer Felix Dangamandla headed up to Thohoyandou, the capital of the former Venda homeland. Many of the Collen Mashawana Foundation's EPWP workers live in Thohoyandou and its surrounding villages. I was armed with some documents related to the Mashawana Foundation's IDT contract, including payment sheets and attendance registers the workers needed to sign at the end of each month. Seeing as we already knew there were problems with the program in the Free State, I was keen to learn whether the Foundation's Limpopo workers had similar complaints. It didn't take long for us to establish that there were indeed huge problems with the CMF's Limpopo program. The very first group of workers we encountered told us that they too had been shortchanged in some months. Shockingly, they frequently weren't paid at all, just as the case had been in the Free State. One of the documents I brought along was a payment sheet for January 2025. When I showed the workers their signatures on the document, our investigation took on a whole new dimension. The group immediately realized that the signatures on the payment sheet did not belong to them. In other words, someone must have forged his signatures. This document was used to unlock a R1 million payment from the IDT for the workers' January salaries. The IDT did make the payment to Mashawana's foundation, but the workers did not get a cent of this money. We wanted to know just how widespread the alleged signatures fraud had actually been, so we set out to meet more EPWP workers in and around Thohoyandou. Some of these workers told us the most heart-wrenching stories. Lucky Mbada, for instance, was in desperate need of an income, seeing as he has to care for his wife and a child. At the start of the program, the Mashawana Foundation paid him a salary. The payments were still drastically lower than the amount he'd signed up for, but at least Mbada could put some food on his family's table. His wife used some of the EPWP monies to buy gas so that she could cook the family's food inside. When the Mashawana Foundation stopped paying out Lucky's salary, his wife was forced to start cooking their meals outside on a fire. In other cases, EPWP workers from the area gave up their 350 Rand social relief of distress grant in order to participate in the Mashawana Foundation's program. When the foundation stopped paying them their salaries, they were left with nothing. Some of the workers also gave us more disturbing details regarding their work with the Collen Mashawana Foundation. The expanded public works program, as its name suggests, is meant to deploy workers to public facilities or spaces, like schools, clinics and parks, or to roadsides, where they're frequently seen cutting grass or picking up rubbish. However, several of the Mashawana Foundation's Limpopo participants said they were told to work at private properties that belonged to the Mashawana family, including this massive residence that is still under construction. Austin Mashawana, Collen Mashawana's brother and the charity's chief operating officer, explicitly denied that any of the EPWP workers did duty at the family's private properties, but Daily Maverick obtained WhatsApp exchanges proving the contrary. During our engagements with the Limpopo workers, we asked them to provide us with sample signatures next to the allegedly forged signatures included in the January 2025 payment sheet. In some cases, the differences between the sets of signatures were glaring and quite obvious. But we wanted to really firm up the issue of the alleged signatures fraud. So, Daily Maverick roped in a leading forensics firm, one that specializes in signatures fraud and related document analysis. Their work frequently features in high-profile legal proceedings and have helped secure convictions in criminal matters. Over a period of more than 4 months, the investigators spent hours upon hours working through 7,000 individual signatures and 23,000 initials, contained in 8 main bundles of EPWP documentation. These were the documents the Collen Mashawana Foundation submitted to get money from the IDT, which to date comes down to an amount of nearly 30 million Rand, half of the contract value. The investigators' conclusions are nothing short of shocking. Mashawana's foundation had likely committed near-industrial scale alleged forgery in its submissions to the IDT. Using scientifically sound signature analysis, the investigators found that there were entire clusters of so-called workers' signatures that were, in fact, produced by one person. They also identified clear inconsistencies in some of the workers' so-called signatures over the period in question. Many of the participants' so-called signatures and initials changed from month to month, sometimes quite visibly so. Lastly, the forensics firm also found several obvious spelling errors. For instance, the alleged forgers clearly struggled with the surname Shlungwane. In some months, they spelled the surname of this candidate, K. Shlungwane, with an E at the end, which is the correct spelling, but in other months they ended the surname with an I. So, what does this all mean for the workers, for the Collen Mashawana Foundation and for the IDT? The IDT's Board of Trustees said it has noted Daily Maverick's work on this issue and that it will ensure the matter is probed. There is also an ongoing Hawks investigation into the Collen Mashawana Foundation's IDT contract following our initial exposés. One can only hope the authorities will also take into account the revelations regarding the alleged signatures fraud. As for the workers, some of them are waiting for clarity on the funds the IDT paid to the Collen Mashawana Foundation, funds that did not reach them even after they put in months of physical labor. If you appreciate this work, support our journalism by becoming a Maverick Insider. You'll find details in the caption below.